Kim Daeho wiped the dust from another old box of papers. The storage room smelled like old books and metal. He had been working in the legal archives of Kepler Station for 5 years now. Every day was the same. Sort papers, scan documents, file reports. The alien bosses barely noticed him. Most humans on the station worked in the mines or cleaned the corridors. Daeho was lucky to have a desk job even if it was boring. The Galactic Dominion gave humans the worst jobs. They said humans were not smart enough for important work. Daeho knew this was wrong, but he kept quiet. Today felt different. The box he opened contained very old papers. These were not the usual shipping records or tax forms. The papers were yellow and fragile. They had strange symbols and dates from hundreds of years ago. Daeho loved old documents. They told stories about times when things were different. He picked up one paper that looked important. The title made him stop breathing for a moment. The Primordial Accord of 2157 was written in Old Earth script. Daeho had never seen anything this old. Most records from Earth's early space age had been lost or destroyed. His hands shook as he read the document. It was a treaty between several alien races from when they first started traveling between stars. The language was formal and hard to understand, but Daeho was good with old legal papers. He had studied ancient law as a hobby. As he read deeper, one section caught his attention. Article 847C said something amazing. Any species that invented faster than light, travel by themselves could challenge the ruling government through something called trial by merit. This was a legal right that could not be taken away. Daeho felt his heart beating fast. Humans had invented FTL travel. Everyone knew that. But the Dominion said humans had stolen the technology from other races. They said humans were copycats who could not create anything new. This paper said something very different. He looked around the empty archive room. No one was watching. He quickly made a copy of the document and hid it in his personal files. Then he put the original back in the box and tried to look normal. The rest of the day dragged by slowly. Commander Veltar, a tall reptilian alien, walked through the archives twice. He always looked at the human workers with disgust. His scales were dark green and his eyes were cold. He spoke to humans like they were stupid animals. "Human worker," Veltar said to Daeho. "Why are you working so slowly today?" "Sorry, Commander," Daeho replied, keeping his eyes down. "These old papers are hard to read." Veltar made a hissing sound. "Humans should not waste time thinking about old papers. Just scan and file. Your simple minds cannot understand important documents anyway." After Veltar left, Daeho went back to his work. But his mind was racing. If the Primordial Accord was real, it changed everything. Humans might have legal rights that had been hidden for centuries. That evening, Daeho met his friend Park Jiwoo at their usual cafe. Jiwoo worked on the cargo ships that carried supplies between star systems. He was tired and dirty from loading containers all day. "You look strange," Jiwoo said as he sat down. "Did something happen?" Daeho looked around to make sure no aliens were listening. The cafe was mostly empty. A few humans sat at other tables, eating cheap food and talking quietly. "I found something today," Daeho whispered. "Something important." He told Jiwoo about the document. His friend's eyes grew wide as he listened. Jiwoo had always been angry about how aliens treated humans. He often talked about fighting back, but Daeho always told him to be careful. "Are you sure this is real?" Jiwoo asked. "The paper is old. The stamps look real." "I think it's the original document," Daeho said. "But how can we prove humans invented FTL travel first? The Dominion controls all the history books." Daeho had been thinking about this all day. There might be other documents, other proof. "I work in the archives. Maybe I can find more evidence." Jiwoo leaned forward. "This could be dangerous. If they catch you looking for things like this." "I know," Daeho said. "But what if we could prove humans deserve equal treatment? What if we could change everything?" The next day, Daeho started his secret research. He looked through old boxes more carefully. He searched for any papers about early human space travel. Most of the time he found nothing useful, but sometimes he found small clues. There were shipping records from old Earth colonies. There were trade agreements from the early days of human expansion. Slowly he began to see a pattern. The dates showed humans had been traveling between stars much earlier than the official history said. Lee So-young worked in the historical archives on the same station. She was quiet and smart. Daeho had always liked her, but they rarely talked. One day he decided to ask for her help. "So young," he said during lunch break. Do you ever find old documents about human history? She looked at him carefully. Why do you ask? Daeho hesitated. He did not know if he could trust her, but he needed help. I found something about human rights that might have been forgotten. So Young was quiet for a long moment. Then she leaned closer. Meet me in storage room C7 after work. Come alone. That evening, Daeho went to the storage room. So Young was waiting for him. She looked nervous but determined. I have been waiting for someone like you, she said. Someone who asks the right questions. She opened a hidden compartment behind some old filing cabinets. Inside were dozens of documents and data chips. There are others like us, humans who remember our real history. We call ourselves Terra Memoria. Daeho stared at the hidden archive. You have been collecting evidence? For years. We knew this day would come, when someone would be brave enough to challenge the lies. So Young picked up one of the data chips. This contains records of Dr. Choi Byung-ho. He invented the theoretical framework for FTL travel in 2155. 1 year before the aliens claimed they taught us the technology. Daeho felt like the world was spinning. Everything he thought he knew was wrong. Humans had not been given FTL travel by aliens. They had invented it themselves. And then the aliens had stolen credit for it. What do we do now? He asked. So Young smiled for the first time since he had known her. Now we prove that humans deserve to be free, and we use their own laws to do it. Outside the storage room, the lights of Kepler Station twinkled like stars. Soon, those stars would witness the beginning of a revolution that would change the galaxy forever. Daeho spent the next weeks learning about Terra Memoria, so Young introduced him to other members through secret meetings. They were teachers, engineers, doctors, and workers spread across different star systems. All of them shared one goal: to preserve the truth about human history. The group had been collecting evidence for 20 years. They hid documents in storage rooms, maintenance tunnels, and abandoned sections of space stations. Every piece of proof was carefully copied and stored in multiple locations. The aliens did not just hide our achievements, So Young explained during one meeting. They rewrote history completely. They made us believe we were always inferior. Nam Hyunwoo was different from the other Terra Memoria members. He was a former military officer who now worked as a smuggler. His ship carried legal cargo, but he also moved things the Dominion did not want moved, like hidden documents and secret messages. I fought in the border wars, Hyunwoo told Daeho. Back then, human soldiers were as good as any alien troops. Sometimes better, but after we lost, they made us forget how strong we really were. Hyunwoo had scars on his arms and a bitter way of talking, but he knew how to move around the galaxy without being caught. He could get them to places where more evidence might be hidden. The most surprising member of their group was Yoon Mi-rae. She was only 19 years old, but she was brilliant with computers. She could break into Dominion databases and hide their tracks afterward. The aliens think humans are stupid with technology, Mi-rae said with a grin. They never expect us to hack their systems. Their security is designed to stop other advanced races, not primitive humans. Mi-rae had already found deleted files in government databases. Files about early human space missions that had been removed from official records. Each deleted file was more proof that the official history was wrong, but they needed something bigger. The Primordial Accord was important, but they needed to prove humans had really invented FTL travel independently. They needed the original research that had been hidden. There might be something on Earth's moon, So Young said. The Luna archives were abandoned 50 years ago. If original documents survived anywhere, they would be there. Earth's moon was now a forgotten place. The Dominion had strip-mined most of Earth and moved the important facilities to other worlds. Luna had been left behind when they decided Earth was not worth their attention. Getting to Luna would be dangerous. They needed special permission to travel to the Sol system. And they needed a good reason to visit the abandoned archives. Hyunwoo had an idea. My ship needs repairs. I can claim engine trouble and request emergency landing on Luna. Once we are there, you can search the archives while I fix my ship. It took 2 weeks to plan the mission. Mi-rae created fake repair orders and emergency codes. So Young researched the layout of the Luna archives. Daeho studied every document they already had, looking for clues about what to search for. Ji-woo wanted to come with them, but his cargo ship duties made it impossible. Instead, he helped by watching Commander Veltar and reporting if the alien became suspicious. Veltar has been asking questions about you, Ji-woo warned Daeho. He wants to know why you spend so much time with old documents. This made Deho nervous, but they were too close to stop now. They had to reach Luna before Veltar discovered their research. The flight to Earth's moon took 3 days. Hyunwoo's ship was old but reliable. It was designed to look like a simple cargo vessel, but it had hidden compartments and upgraded systems. Perfect for a smuggler. As they approached Luna, Deho looked out at the blue and green world of Earth. It was beautiful, but he could see the scars from decades of mining. Whole continents had been torn apart to feed the Dominion's appetite for resources. My great-great-grandfather was born down there, Deho said quietly. Dr. Choi Byung-ho? So Young asked. Yes. He lived in Seoul before the aliens came. He was working on space travel theories when he died. Deho had learned about his ancestor from the Terra Memoria files. I never knew we were related until you showed me his research. Luna's surface was covered with abandoned mining equipment and empty buildings. The archives were in a complex near the South Pole, protected by a dome that kept the air inside. Emergency power still worked, so they could breathe and use basic systems. The Luna archives were huge. Thousands of metal shelves filled underground chambers. Most of the files had been moved to other locations decades ago, but some things had been left behind. Usually things that were considered unimportant. Look for anything from 2155 to 2157, So Young said as they spread out through the archives, especially research papers or prototype designs. They searched for hours. Most of what they found was boring administrative paperwork. Purchase orders, personnel files, meeting minutes. Nothing about FTL research. Then Mireille found something interesting. Look at this, she called from a section marked Rejected Patent Applications. The file she held contained dozens of research proposals that had been turned down for funding. Most were clearly impossible or useless, but one made Deho's heart race. Theoretical Framework for Faster-Than-Light Propulsion, he read aloud. Submitted by Dr. Choi Byung-ho, Seoul National University, dated March 15, 2155. The paper was technical and hard to understand, but the date was clear. Dr. Choi had submitted his FTL theory 6 months before the Vegan Collective claimed to have invented the technology. This proves humans thought of it first, So Young said excitedly. But we need more. We need to show that Dr. Choi's theory actually worked. They kept searching. In another section, Hyunwoo found something even better. A sealed container marked Prometheus Project, Experimental Prototypes. Inside the container was a small device about the size of a briefcase. It looked like some kind of engine or generator. With it were detailed plans and test results, all signed by Dr. Choi Byung-ho. This is it, Deho whispered. This is the original FTL drive prototype. The test results showed that Dr. Choi had built a working model of his FTL engine in December 2156. It was crude and could only move small objects, but it worked. The technology had been proven before any alien race claimed to have invented it. But the most important discovery was in the final report. Dr. Choi had not worked alone. He had been part of a secret project funded by several Earth governments. They had known that contact with alien races was coming, and they wanted humanity to be ready. The aliens did not give us FTL travel, So Young realized. They found out we already had it and pretended they taught it to us. They stole our achievement and made us grateful for our own invention. As they prepared to leave Luna, Deho felt a mixture of anger and hope. Anger at the centuries of lies and oppression. Hope that finally, humans might be able to claim their rightful place in the galaxy. But first they had to get this evidence back to Kepler Station without being caught. And then they had to figure out how to use the Primordial Accord to challenge the most powerful government in galactic history. On the flight back, Mireille worked on copying and encrypting all their discoveries. She created multiple backup files and hid them in different systems across the galaxy. If something happened to them, other Terra Memoria members could continue their work. What happens next? Hyunwoo asked as they approached Kepler Station. Deho looked at the prototype FTL drive in his hands. Such a small device to change the fate of an entire species. Next, we invoke a law that has been forgotten for 300 years. And we hope the aliens still care about their own legal system. As their ship docked at Kepler Station, none of them noticed the Dominion security cruiser that had been following them since they left. Luna. Commander Veltar had grown suspicious of the human archive worker who spent too much time reading old papers. The real test was about to begin. Commander Veltar was waiting when they returned to Kepler Station. His security team surrounded Hyunwoo's ship as soon as it docked. Daeho felt his stomach drop when he saw the alien commander's cold eyes through the viewport. "Search everything," Veltar ordered his soldiers. "I want to know what these humans were really doing at Luna." But Mireille had been ready for this. She had hidden the most important evidence in the ship's waste recycling system. The alien soldiers were too disgusted to search there thoroughly. They found some old documents, but nothing that looked dangerous. "Just historical research," Daeho said when Veltar questioned him. "I was looking for shipping records from the early colonial period." Veltar's scaly face showed he did not believe this story. But he had no proof of wrongdoing. After 6 hours of searching and questioning, he had to let them go. "I will be watching you, human," Veltar warned Daeho. "One mistake and you will spend the rest of your life in the detention centers." That night, the Terra Memoria team met in an abandoned maintenance tunnel deep in the station. They had recovered the hidden evidence and were ready to plan their next move. "We have everything we need," So Young said as she looked through Dr. Choi's research papers. "The Primordial Accord, proof of human FTL invention, and the original prototype. Now we need to invoke Article 847C officially." This was the dangerous part. Once they filed the legal challenge, there would be no going back. The Dominion would have to respond according to their own laws, but they would also try to destroy the humans who dared to challenge them. "I will file the petition," Daeho said. "It has to be done through the official legal channels. As an archive worker, I have access to the Dominion legal database." Mireille had been studying the legal procedures for weeks. The petition has to include all evidence and be filed simultaneously at 3 different Dominion legal centers. That way they cannot just delete it and pretend it never happened. It took them 2 days to prepare the perfect legal document. Every word was carefully chosen. Every piece of evidence was properly documented. They knew they would only get one chance to do this right. On the day of filing, Daeho sat at his workstation in the archives trying to look normal. His hands shook as he accessed the Dominion legal network. At exactly noon, he submitted the petition to all 3 legal centers at once. The response was immediate chaos. Within minutes, alarms were ringing throughout the station. Dominion officials were running through the corridors, shouting orders in different alien languages. Commander Veltar burst into the archive room with a squad of armed soldiers. "What did you do?" he demanded, grabbing Daeho by his shirt. "I filed a legal petition," Daeho said, trying to keep his voice steady. "According to Dominion law, I have the right to request legal review of historical documents." Veltar's claws pressed against Daeho's throat. "You filed something that has caused panic in the capital. High Command is demanding explanations." But before Veltar could do anything violent, other aliens arrived. These were not soldiers. They wore the gray robes of the Dominion Legal Council. Their leader was a tall, insect-like creature with multiple eyes. "Release the human," the insect alien commanded. "This matter is now under legal jurisdiction." Veltar hissed angrily but stepped back. The Legal Council had authority even over military commanders when it came to official petitions. "You are Counselor Thexani," Daeho said, recognizing the alien from government broadcasts. "Correct," Thexani replied in a clicking voice. "And you are the human who has invoked Article 847C of the Primordial Accord. Do you understand what you have done?" "I believe so," Daeho said. "I am challenging the Dominion's authority over humanity, based on our species' independent achievement of faster-than-light travel." Thexani's multiple eyes studied Daeho carefully. "The Primordial Accord is one of the founding documents of Dominion law. It cannot be ignored even if it is inconvenient. Your petition will be reviewed by the High Arbiter within 7 days." As the legal team left with copies of all the evidence, Veltar glared at Daeho with pure hatred. "Enjoy your victory while it lasts, human. When this legal nonsense is over, I will make you pay for embarrassing the Dominion." News of the legal challenge spread quickly through the galaxy. Human workers on dozens of worlds heard whispered rumors that someone had dared to challenge their alien masters. Many did not believe it was possible, but other species were also paying attention. The Primordial Accord applied to all races, not just humans. If the old law still had power, it might change everything about how the galaxy was governed. The Terra Memoria network activated across the galaxy. Members began secretly distributing copies of the evidence to human communities everywhere. If the Dominion tried to destroy the originals, hundreds of copies would survive. Jiwoo brought disturbing news from his cargo routes. Dominion military ships are moving toward Earth and the human colonies. They are calling it routine exercises, but everyone knows better. Hyunwoo confirmed this from his smuggler contacts. They are planning something. If the legal challenge succeeds, they want to be ready to crush any human uprising. 3 days after filing the petition, Daeho received an official summons. He was ordered to appear before High Arbiter Korvath on the Dominion capital world for a formal hearing. Korvath was a member of the Nexari, a crystalline species known for their rigid sense of justice. The High Arbiter had served for over 2 centuries and was respected even by the Dominion's enemies. This could be good for us, So Young said as they prepared for the journey. The Nexari value law above politics. If our evidence is solid, Korvath might rule in our favor. But the hearing would also be dangerous. The capital world was the heart of Dominion power. Military leaders like Admiral Raxion would try to influence the decision through intimidation or worse. As Daeho prepared to leave Kepler Station, he realized how much his life had changed. 3 months ago, he had been a nobody, filing papers in a dusty archive. Now he was about to challenge the most powerful government in galactic history. "Are you afraid?" So Young asked him the night before departure. "Terrified," Daeho admitted, but also excited. For the first time in centuries, humans have a real chance at freedom. The next morning, a Dominion transport ship arrived to take Daeho to the capital. As he boarded the vessel, he saw Mireille and Hyunwoo preparing their own ship. They would follow secretly, ready to help if needed. The transport ship was filled with alien officials and military officers. They all stared at Daeho with curiosity and disgust. He was probably the first human many of them had ever seen up close. During the 3-day journey, Daeho studied every legal precedent he could find about the Primordial Accord. The law was ancient and complex, but it was clear about one thing: species that achieved FTL travel independently had the right to equal representation in galactic government. The question was whether the Dominion would honor their own laws, or whether they would find a way to twist them to maintain their power. As the transport ship approached the capital world, Daeho looked out at the massive space stations and military fleets that protected the heart of the Dominion. Soon he would stand before the High Arbiter and demand justice for his people. The outcome would determine whether humans remained slaves forever, or whether they would finally take their place as equals among the stars. Everything depended on a forgotten law and the courage of one man who refused to accept the lies he had been told all his life. The galaxy was about to discover that humans were far more dangerous than anyone had imagined, not because of their weapons or their fleets, but because of their stubborn refusal to accept injustice. The Dominion capital world was more impressive than anything Daeho had ever seen. Massive towers reached toward the sky, each one bigger than entire cities on human worlds. Flying vehicles moved between the buildings like schools of fish. The air itself seemed to glow with energy. High Arbiter Korvath received Daeho in the Great Hall of Justice. The chamber was enormous, with walls made of some kind of crystal that reflected light and beautiful patterns. Korvath himself was 12 feet tall, his body made of living crystal that pulsed with internal light. "Human Daeho," the High Arbiter's voice rang like musical chimes, "you have invoked one of our most ancient laws. The Primordial Accord has not been used for 3 centuries. Do you understand the seriousness of your claim?" "I do, Your Honor," Daeho replied, trying not to be intimidated by the massive alien. "I believe humanity has been wrongfully denied its rights under galactic law." Korvath studied the evidence for what felt like hours. The crystal being examined every document, every data file, every piece of proof that Daeho had brought. Finally, he looked up with eyes that sparkled like diamonds. "Your evidence is compelling," Korvath admitted. Dr. Choi Byung-ho's research clearly predates the Vegan Collective's claimed invention of FTL travel. The prototype device shows genuine innovation. Under the Primordial Accord, humanity does appear to have a valid claim. Daeho felt hope rise in his chest, but Korvath was not finished. "However," the High Arbiter continued, "Admiral Raxion and the Military Council dispute your evidence. They claim the documents are forgeries, created by human terrorists to undermine Dominion authority." As if summoned by his name, Admiral Raxion entered the hall. The hegemony was a warrior race, and Raxion looked like a walking weapon. His armor was black metal, and his face was scarred from countless battles. When he spoke, his voice was like grinding stone. This human is a criminal, Raxion declared. He and his accomplices have fabricated evidence to support their rebellion. They should be executed as an example to other troublemakers. The evidence has been verified by your own technical experts, Korvath replied calmly. The age of the documents is genuine. The prototype device functions as described. Then the humans stole the technology, Raxion insisted. They are natural thieves and liars. Everyone knows they cannot create anything original. Deho felt anger burning in his chest, but he forced himself to stay calm. Admiral, if humans are so inferior, why are you afraid of giving us a fair trial? Raxion's hand moved to his weapon. You dare to question me, slave? Enough, Korvath's voice rang with authority. Admiral, the law is clear. If the human evidence is valid, Article 847C must be honored. Humanity has the right to trial by merit. Trial by merit? Deho asked. He had read about this in the ancient texts, but the details were unclear. Counselor Thexiani stepped forward. During the past few days, she had been studying the old laws carefully. Trial by merit is a three-part challenge. The petitioning species must prove their worthiness in technology, strategy, and leadership. If they succeed, they gain equal status in the Dominion Council. And if they fail? Deho asked, though he suspected he knew the answer. If they fail, Raxion said with a cruel smile, all members of their species are relocated to penal colonies for the protection of galactic civilization. The stakes could not be higher. Success meant freedom for all humanity. Failure meant slavery forever. I accept the trial by merit, Deho said without hesitation. Korvath nodded approvingly. The trial will begin in 90 standard days. You have that time to prepare and select your representatives. Choose wisely, human. The fate of your entire species depends on your choices. As Deho left the Hall of Justice, his mind was already racing. He needed to contact Terra Memoria and prepare for the greatest challenge in human history. They would need their best scientists, strategists, and leaders. Back on Kepler Station, the secret meeting included representatives from Terra Memoria cells across the galaxy. Mireille had set up secure communication links so that humans from dozens of worlds could participate in planning. For the technology trial, we need Captain Yang Taijin, So Young said. Yang was a legendary human pilot who had disappeared years ago after criticizing Dominion policies. If anyone can showcase human innovation, it's him. Hyunwoo had contacts in the underground networks. I can find Yang, but what about the strategy trial? That will probably involve military or political scenarios. Deho should handle that himself, suggested Dr. Bei Minjong, a xenobiologist who had joined them by hologram. He understands law and politics better than anyone. The leadership trial was the most mysterious. The ancient text did not explain exactly what it involved. They could only prepare for anything. Finding Yang Taijin took 3 weeks. The former pilot was hiding in the asteroid belts, living alone on a modified mining ship. When Hyunwoo finally tracked him down, Yang was suspicious and angry. Why should I help you? Yang demanded. I've been hiding for 5 years because I spoke the truth about human capabilities. The Dominion wants me dead. Because this time is different, Deho explained over the communication link. This time we have legal authority on our side. This time we can win. Yang studied the evidence they had gathered. When he saw Dr. Choi's prototype FTL drive, his attitude changed completely. My grandfather worked with Dr. Choi, he said quietly. He told me stories about the real history of human space travel. I never thought I would see proof. Meanwhile, Dr. Bai Minjong was preparing her own surprise. For years, she had been secretly developing medical techniques that could extend lifespans for all galactic species. Her research was far ahead of anything the Dominion possessed. If we can show that human innovation benefits everyone, not just ourselves, it might change how other species see us, she explained. As the 90 days passed, word of the upcoming trial spread throughout the galaxy. Other oppressed species began to pay attention. If humans could successfully challenge the Dominion, it might inspire others to demand their own rights. But the Dominion was not sitting idle. Admiral Raxion was moving military fleets closer to human worlds. His public statements became more threatening each day. If these human terrorists succeed in their legal trickery, he announced, it will encourage rebellion throughout the galaxy. We cannot allow legal technicalities to undermine order and stability. Commander Veltar was also causing problems. He had increased security around all human workers and was looking for any excuse to arrest Terra Memoria members. Several safe houses had been discovered and raided. They are trying to weaken us before the trial, So Young observed. They cannot stop the legal process, but they can try to sabotage our preparation. The night before the trial was scheduled to begin, Daeho could not sleep. He stood at the observation deck of the transport ship, carrying the human delegation to the capital world. Yang Taijin was checking his equipment one last time. Dr. Bei Minjung was reviewing her medical research. Everyone was as ready as they could be. Are you nervous? Mireille asked, joining him at the viewport. Beyond nervous, Daeho admitted. Tomorrow we find out if centuries of oppression finally end or if they continue forever. We have good people, Mireille said. We have solid evidence, and we have something the Dominion doesn't understand. What's that? We have nothing left to lose, she replied. When you have nothing left to lose, you can accomplish anything. As their ship approached the capital world, Daeho thought about all the humans throughout the galaxy who were watching and hoping. Tomorrow would determine whether their children grew up as slaves or as free citizens of the galaxy. The trial by merit was about to begin, and the entire galaxy would be watching. The first trial was held in the Grand Technology Arena, where thousands of spectators from across the galaxy came to watch. Yang Taijin stood calmly next to his modified ship, while Dominion engineers presented their latest achievements. Our new quantum processors can calculate hyperspace routes in 0.3 seconds, announced the Vegan representative. Displaying a complex computer system, Yang smiled and activated his own device. Human fusion drives can reach 98% of light speed using half the fuel of current Dominion engines, he said simply. The alien engineers looked shocked. Such technology should have been impossible for primitive humans. But Yang's demonstration was flawless. His fusion drive generated more power with better efficiency than anything the Dominion possessed. Dr. Bei Minjung presented her medical research next. This neural regeneration technique can repair brain damage in any known species, she explained. It uses modified human stem cells that adapt to alien biology. She demonstrated the technique on a volunteer who had suffered a stroke years earlier. Within minutes, the patient's motor functions began returning. The alien doctors in the audience whispered in amazement. How is this possible? Asked the chief Dominion medical officer. Human biological adaptability is extraordinary, Dr. Bei explained. Our cells can be modified to work with many different alien physiologies. This technique could help millions of beings across the galaxy. High Arbiter Korvath observed everything carefully. The human technology demonstrations are impressive, he announced. They show innovation that exceeds current Dominion standards. Admiral Raxion was furious. This proves nothing. Any species can steal technology and make small improvements. The real test is strategic thinking. The second trial moved to the strategy chamber, where Daeho faced the greatest military minds in the Dominion. They were given a complex scenario, how to govern a galaxy with 847 different species, many of whom disagreed with each other. The alien strategists presented traditional solutions: military control of rebellious systems, economic pressure on uncooperative species, forced relocation of troublesome populations. When it was Daeho's turn, he took a completely different approach. What if we tried cooperation instead of control? He suggested. Cooperation? Laughed General Corex of the hegemony. Inferior species cannot be trusted to govern themselves. But what if they are not inferior? Daeho replied. What if every species has something valuable to contribute? He presented a detailed plan for galactic governance based on trade partnerships, cultural exchange, and mutual respect. Instead of ruling through fear, the government would earn loyalty by helping each species develop their unique strengths. The Zephyrians are excellent at mathematics, Daeho explained. Let them handle galactic finance. The Krathen are master engineers. Let them design infrastructure. Humans adapt quickly to new situations. Let us facilitate communication between species. Ridiculous, Admiral Raxion declared. This soft approach would lead to chaos and rebellion. But other observers were nodding thoughtfully. Counselor Thexani in particular seemed interested in Daeho's ideas. The strategic simulations ran for 3 days. Every time, Daeho's cooperative approach achieved better results than traditional military control. Fewer conflicts, stronger economies, happier populations. Impossible, muttered the Dominion strategists. But the computer simulations did not lie. Just as the strategic trials were ending, real crisis struck the galaxy. A massive solar flare erupted from the star in the Kepler system, threatening to destroy 3 populated planets. Millions of beings were in danger. "This is perfect," announced High Arbiter Korvath. "The third trial will test leadership under pressure. Human Deho, you will coordinate the evacuation effort. If you succeed in saving the populations, humanity wins the trial. If you fail..." "I understand," Deho said. He had 6 hours to organize a rescue mission across 3 star systems. But instead of trying to do everything himself, Deho did something unexpected. He asked for help from everyone, including his former enemies. "Admiral Raxion," he said over the communication system, "your military fleets are the fastest in the galaxy. We need them to reach the outer planets quickly. Commander Veltar, your security forces know crowd control. We need them to organize evacuations without panic. Counselor Thexani, your people are excellent at logistics. We need supply chains to support refugee camps." One by one, Deho gave every alien leader a chance to use their species' greatest strengths to help save lives. Even his enemies found themselves working together, under his coordination. Yang Taijin led a squadron of volunteer pilots from dozens of different species. Dr. Bei Minzhong set up mobile medical stations for refugees with special needs. Mireille hacked communication systems to keep everyone connected during the crisis. The evacuation was completed with 20 minutes to spare. 3 million beings were saved because humans had brought together former enemies to work as allies. As the last refugee ship reached safety, something amazing happened. Aliens throughout the galaxy began cheering for the human coordination effort. For the first time in centuries, they had seen their leaders working together instead of fighting each other. "How did you do it?" asked Counselor Thexani. "How did you get everyone to cooperate?" "I treated them like people instead of enemies," Deho replied. "I trusted them to do the right thing when lives were at stake." High Arbiter Korvath stood before the assembled representatives of the galaxy. "The trials are complete. Humanity has demonstrated superior technology, innovative strategy, and exceptional leadership. Under the Primordial Accord, they have earned equal status in galactic governance. But Admiral Raxion was not finished. I reject this decision," he declared. "The Dominion military will not serve under human leadership." Several alien fleets moved to support Raxion's rebellion, but other fleets, impressed by what they had seen during the trials, moved to oppose him. The galaxy split into 2 factions. The space battle that followed was unlike anything in galactic history. It was not just humans against aliens. It was progressives against traditionalists, cooperation against control, future against past. Yang Taijin led the Allied fleet using tactics learned from human military history. Instead of massive frontal assaults, they used speed and flexibility. Small groups of ships working together to outmaneuver larger enemy formations. But the real victory came when Deho addressed the galaxy directly. Mireille had hacked into every communication system to broadcast his message to every world. "This is not about humans ruling over aliens," he said. "This is about all of us working together as equals. Every species has something valuable to offer. Every world deserves respect and representation." One by one, star systems began declaring independence from the Old Dominion, not to join a human empire but to create something new, a true federation where every species had a voice. The war ended when Admiral Raxion's own officers refused to fight anymore. They had seen what cooperation could accomplish, and they wanted to be part of it. High Arbiter Korvath officially dissolved the Galactic Dominion and established the Galactic Federation. Deho became the first human representative to the Supreme Council, but he was joined by representatives from every species. Counselor Thexani led a new department of historical truth, working with So Young to ensure that no species' achievements would ever be hidden again. Yang Taijin became head of the new interspecies technology exchange. Dr. Bai Minzhong established medical research centers on dozens of worlds. Even former enemies found new roles. Commander Veltar, after years of oppressing humans, became an advocate for workers' rights. He had learned that treating people with respect was more effective than ruling through fear. Years later, Deho returned to Earth to establish a memorial for Dr. Choi Byung-ho and other forgotten pioneers. The planet was slowly healing from centuries of exploitation. Children from dozens of species played together in schools that taught the real history of the galaxy. Do you ever regret it? So Young asked him as they watched the sunset over Seoul. You could have lived a quiet life as an archive worker. Daeho smiled. Every choice has consequences. But some choices change everything for the better. In the distance, ships from 100 different worlds came and went from Earth's orbital stations. Trade, tourism, cultural exchange, the planet that had once been strip-mined and forgotten, was now a symbol of what the galaxy could accomplish when different peoples worked together. The primordial accord still existed, but it was no longer needed. The new Galactic Federation was built on principles that recognized the worth and dignity of every intelligent species. No one would ever again be denied their rights because of what they looked like or where they came from. Daeho had started as one man with a dusty old document. He had ended by changing the course of galactic civilization, not through conquest or violence, but through the simple power of truth and the courage to stand up for what was right. The galaxy was finally free, and it would never go back to the old ways of oppression and fear. The forgotten law had been exposed, but more importantly, the forgotten principles of justice and equality had been restored. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy. They had liberated it, and in doing so, they had proven that the greatest strength was not the power to dominate others,